G'day and welcome. Today we'll be taking a brief look at the Australians within bolt action and later my own Australian Army. The Australians feature in 2 of our bolt action book supplements, primarily in the New Guinea campaign book in which they have their own specific army list, and in the Western Desert which replaces the British national trait with one of their own. When compared to the enormous campaigns fought on the Eastern Front and in Western Europe during World War II, the conflicts in North Africa may seem like a minor prelude. The influence and impact of the struggles in the Western Desert and the Middle East cannot be repudiated, and its resolution helped shape the course of the war, opening up Europe for the Allies to take a foothold and take the fight to Germany. Fighting for the freedom of the civilised world against the twin fascist threats of Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Germany, the brave men of the British Commonwealth were a multinational force. The British Commonwealth infantryman was a fearsome opponent, whether facing the German Afrika Korps or the Italian army. Whether it be in the parched desert of North Africa or in the beautiful yet rugged terrain of Italy. Using Warlord's fantastic plastic British Commonwealth infantry box set, which includes specific heads for the iconic digger or bush hats that allow you to replicate the Australian Army in North Africa or Italy. Inside the Western Desert campaign book, Australians are represented by the British and Commonwealth Army list, including some new units present within the book, and are also given their own flavour by incorporating 2 special national characteristics to reflect their own strengths and idiosyncrasies, such as aggressive patrolling, which grants the Australian player forward deployment benefits, and never give up, gifting the Australians the fanatic special rule during defending in an assault scenario. In 1942, Japanese forces invaded the island of New Guinea and started a bitter 3-year campaign against Australian and American forces. Fought in dense jungles and across rugged mountaintops, the grueling fight pushed men to their very limits and forced commanders to adopt new strategies and tactics for the harsh island terrain. The New Guinea campaign book provides a new army list containing many new units of the Australian Army, including the Infantry Militia Section, the Independent Commando Section, and of course, the Papuan Infantry Section, all of which have dedicated metal miniatures to represent them on the tabletop. The Papuan infantry were local men, recruited in New Guinea, and were led by Australian officers and senior NCOs. They were superb jungle fighters and were particularly good at reconnaissance. They were almost impossible to ambush. They fought from the Kokoda campaign right through to the end of the war against Imperial Japan. In addition to unique infantry miniatures, there is also a dedicated Australian Matilda Mark II tank. The Australians made several field conversions to the standard A12 Matilda II. The 2 main additions being armoured guards fitted to the front tracks and protection against the turret ring becoming a shot trap. The Matilda Frog was a terrifying weapon, firing gouts of pressurised flame. It needed a 20-second pause between shots while the pressure built up again. This required close infantry support to prevent the tank being overrun by the enemy. New rules reflect the style of warfare fought during the New Guinea campaign, incorporating the previously mentioned national characteristics with 4 more that help to capture the feel of the campaign you are representing. Foremost of these is Australia is Next. Australian troops fighting in the desperate conflict of 1942 in the mountains around Kokoda and the swamps of Milne Bay believed if they failed to stop the Imperial Japanese onslaught that our homeland would be invaded next. More Allied decorations, including a posthumous Victoria Cross, were awarded at the Battle of Isarava on the Kokoda track than any other single battle in the Pacific Theatre. Now, let's have a quick look at my jungle-themed Australian Army. G'day, my name's Peter. I run the casting room and I also run the original resin room for Warlord games. I'm here today to show you my Australian Army and show you the inspiration for it, which was this book here, written by survivors of the 39th Battalion. Because I am Australian, and because I've just finished reading the book that was written by survivors of the 39th Battalion who took part in the New Guinea campaign, and it inspired me to do something to loosely represent them. It would have to be the guys that represent the 39th Battalion, because those are the guys that really grab the imagination when it comes to the New Guinea campaign. They were the first ones who got seriously into the Japanese, and the first ones to seriously give the Japanese a bit of a fright in the Pacific campaign. So yeah, I think it's the militia for me. There was two colour schemes that I chose. Obviously, one being the initial uniforms that the militia guys wore, which were basically desert uniforms, and there was no jungle camouflage at the time, so they stood out quite a bit in the jungle. But that's what inspired me in the beginning. They were completely out of their element, and they had nothing that really suited the situation they were in. So that was the militia. But then when the second AIF arrived with the regular army, and they were in jungle green, and that's almost an iconic colour for Australians, because it was the colour of the Second World War for us, and it was the colour of Vietnam for us. So that was also an inspiration for me, the jungle green. I'll probably add some more regular Australian troops so that I can look further afield from the New Guinea area and look at some of the battles that led up to the collapse of Japan in the Pacific. But at the moment, it's probably just adding maybe one more Matilda to it, and maybe another short 25.